It's not surprising that he would go out to Columbia University and stir up really more anger and hate and endanger the lives of young people who are at the encampment at Columbia University.
That's Hamas, president of the Hamas fan club, Ilhan Omar, she's mad at Mike Johnson because he went to Columbia and made remarks. Welcome back to the program. Dana Lash with you, bottom of the second hour. So what did Mike Johnson say? Audio soundbite 4. This is what he said. Listen.
Today, Hamas issued an endorsement statement of the protesters on this campus. They called them the future leaders of America. It is detestable. All of this has to be said because the cherished traditions of this university are being overtaken right now by radical and extreme ideologies. They place a target on the backs of Jewish students in the United States and here on this campus. A growing number of students have chanted in support of terrorists. They have chased down Jewish students. They have mocked them and reviled them. They have shouted racial epithets. They have screamed at those who bear the Star of David. Enjoy your free speech.
So what was threatening about that? I mean, he was highlighting exactly what these protesters are doing. And when you're chasing people and running after them, you're threatening them. How is that protected speech? You know, I've asked a couple of, I asked one of my friends who got mad at me, wouldn't respond, because they were trying to disagree with me privately on this issue of free speech. Like, it's free speech. You can't just arrest people. Nobody's getting randomly arrested for free speech. If you ignore an order to disperse, you can absolutely be arrested. If you're chasing down a Jewish student because they're Jewish and you're scaring them and trying to intimidate them and threatening their safety, that's not considered a form of protected speech. You might be arrested for that. If you hijack property and don't leave, you could be cited for trespassing. That's not protected speech either. And if people on the right, including my friend, thinks that that's protected speech, go ahead and you just let me have your home address, or I'll go to my friend's house and I'll protest in a similar manner on their yard towards their family, and then they can tell me if they think that's protected speech or not. It's just goofy. And Mike Johnson, who has his fault, was not intimidating anyone there. So Ilhan Omar says that he was trying to endanger the lives of people, of young people who are at the encampment. She makes them sound like they're 14-year-olds and not 20-something-year-olds, grown adult people who are doing this at these college campuses. They're not babies. They're not children. They're grown adults. And how does recounting the greatest hits of their offenses that are not considered legally protected speech, how is that in any way making anything, how is that endangering them? At Columbia, they've been endangering others. At Harvard, they've been endangering others. I think Texas very strictly enforced its orders of dispersing because they don't want to see what happened at UT, what was taking place in Columbia. They don't want it to grow and get worse. The first offense, yes, they're going to react to it. I mean, you either respect property rights or you don't. So whenever you hear somebody, even another conservative, say, oh, well, this is just free speech, ask them, so you don't believe in property rights then? So you think that I can come on your property and protest how I want to? Well, no, that's okay, because that's the issue here. They're trying to conflate an issue by acting like they support free speech, because they're horribly trying to triangulate this whole issue. They want to be taken seriously by the left, and they're trying to maintain some kind of relevancy with the left or capital L libertarians, while ignoring how property rights factor into this. I can't go on your property and start doing all that stuff, just like you can't come on my property and start doing all that stuff. That has nothing to do with speech. No one's being arrested for being an anti-Semite. I mean, if that were the case, you wouldn't see anybody on MSNBC. They'd all be gone. They'd all be in jail. People aren't being arrested for expressing their backwoods views on people of different faiths. They're being arrested if they trespass. They're being arrested if they hijack property and then don't disperse when the police say, get moving. I mean, if they don't leave when the college tells them to leave, then that's a problem. I can't believe I have to spell it out like this for some people. It's kind of wild. But it is what it is. They're trying to make this, take this all the way. I mean, how long are they going to do this? What are they going to do after classes are over? You see how poorly timed this can be? What are they going to do when classes are over? You think those college kids are going to stay there on campus and do this? Because the only way that they get attention is if they stay on campus to do this, right? Do you think anybody's going to care about what they do when they leave and they go home? No. People are going to go, why the hell aren't you working a job? They're not going to care if they're protesting. They're not going to care about that. So there's a shelf life on this. Lorraine reminds me too, because I've been to more protests than I can count. I've participated in more protests than I can count, and I've organized more protests than I can count. And I will never forget in St. Louis, whenever we did anything Tea Party, they forced us to get insurance for events, and marches and everything. They forced us to get insurance. Otherwise, they'd fine us. And they forced us to have porta-johns, all of that.
And who they let in.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't litter. We had to pick everything up. And then in the meantime, a year later, they had the Occupy people out there. And it was in Keener Plaza. In order to organize an event, and it just had people meet. It wasn't like an official thing. If they like, the city would actually find who was involved and reach out and be like, you have to get a permit to do this. Now, there were several people involved, and I was one of the 3 people involved in like organizing some of this stuff. My response, and I was not allowed to talk to anybody in City Hall anymore, was to tell them to go do something unflattering to themselves and pound sand, because my First Amendment was my permit. And then I had other people that said, no, we got to pay for this permit. Otherwise, they're going to come down and arrest us. They actually said they would do that. They would come down and arrest us if we didn't have a permit. I can't tell you how many times I've been told I was going to be arrested. They're like, we're going to arrest you if you don't have a permit. If you don't have a porta-john, you're going to get arrested. I'm like, we're doing a march around the city. Why would we have a porta-john, Kane?
And the Occupy group, they were literally pooping on cop cars.
Yeah.
Like, we were required to get porta potties.
One of them pooped on a statue in downtown St. Louis.
Yeah, they're just like pooping on things. So it was their thing.
Can I bring up something just somewhat related but not wholly? How can you just let go like that in public? I know. Like, there are some people out there who have a problem with just public bathrooms in general. How do you just go in the middle of the public and not in a public bathroom? How do you just poop on a statue? How does that happen? How do you just drop a deuce on a cop car? Like, do you just eat a lot of fiber that day? Like, you plan to do
if
it?
I'm not home, it's tough to do.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, those are weird people. I mean, yes, they're weird because of what they're doing, but also that they can is weird. That they physically can, that's weird. You must really, really hate police just to be able to do that. What is the word for it? Poop shy. That's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Anyway, they did all kinds. They trashed Keener Plaza. Trashed it. Property was damaged. Oh my gosh, it was a mess.
I'm sure there's a lot of arrests, though.
Oh, yeah, well, there were some, and then they stopped arresting people. My favorite, I got to tell you the story, because I was on air, and this is before I was syndicated, and I was on air in the evenings. And it was one of the guys that we used to work with who did news at the station we were at. And I was on break, and he bursts into the studio, and he was like, oh my gosh, and he got video of it on his phone. And there was a guy who was, apparently it was a couple of guys, and they were driving around, because Keener Plaza is like right in the middle of St. Louis, downtown St. Louis, and you can just drive around it over and over again. I mean, it's a park on all sides, no buildings, nothing. And apparently they were driving, I don't know who it was, some dudes, a car around Keener Plaza, and they had a giant sign hanging out of the car. And I'm just going to tell you what the sign said, because it did say this. There were photos and video, and it's hysterical. And it said, Occupy D's nuts. And they were hollering and honking the horn and driving all around Keener Plaza, and it was insane. And speaking of the Occupy stuff, in addition to them vandalizing and breaking things and defecating publicly, there was tons of rapes. Women were getting raped right and left at these Occupy encampments. That's why my friend Andrew Breitbart, God rest his soul, he's on video going, stop raping people, because they had at the New York camp, they had 8 rapes in one weekend. I'm not kidding you. But we had to get a permit and do all that stuff. The left always gets to do whatever they want, right? They can block roads. They can do all kinds of stuff. Meanwhile, if I have 1 foot on the sidewalk and 1 foot in the street, I'll have an officer in my face telling me which happened. If I see that foot on the road one more time, you're in custody. I'm taking you in custody. It's like, are you serious? And he's like, do you want to try? I'm like, I did not do anything to you. Why are you like this? Like, I'm for real? Chill. But yeah, you can be on the left, and this is what it is. This is how it works. And so, yeah, when they're giving these orders and they don't follow them, yeah, that's it's not a free speech issue. Stop saying that trespass is free speech, because the people who are trying to argue otherwise, this is what they're arguing. And it's always these people on the right that are so desperate for relevancy to be contrarians. It's misleading.